so. Because yeah, I'm pretty sure that would be
Yeah,
the
that's
mic
pretty.
causing that.
Yeah.
There it
Oh,
goes. Man, your mic is white.
yeah, it's very. So when I do the aria, I'll probably just
Stand
like
back from
stand
it. Yeah.
back. Yeah, I'm not
It's
gonna
just
sing.
that it sounds really loud here, but
Yeah.
because we go so far back,
Okay.
we'll make it
Perfect.
good. The live stream has like a 30-second delay.
Oh.
So yeah, we can turn it off for now if you want to
Okay.
keep it off.
Okay.
And then do I need to turn it out back on when I'm?
I'll come up here and do it.
Okay. Okay. Do we need to sound check anything with them or just let it go?
I heard you playing this over so much. Yeah, just so it's not like right over your shoulder.
Yeah. I won't make any sudden movements.
Do you think we should put the stick up on the piano?
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
It might balance a little better since we're so hot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Because again, since he's not mic'd, I think that's gonna give him enough carry. Yeah. Yeah, you got it. It sure is loud. Yeah.
If you would like to take your seats, we'll begin in a moment. If you would, please rise for the family. Thank you. You may be seated. A very warm thanks to all of you joining in person and through the live feed for gathering today to honor and celebrate the life of our dear friend and colleague, Berrien Moore. We come together to remember and honor his kindness and dedication, as well as the joy he brought into our lives. As we reflect on the impact Berrien had on each of us, let us find comfort in the memories and the lasting legacy he has left with us. After this memorial service, there will be a reception in the cafe. We hope you'll have time to mingle. Let this be a time of connection and remembrance as we celebrate a life well lived. Again, thank you for being here to honor Berrien Moore.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Harris, president of the University of Oklahoma, and the capacities in which you speak when you're university president, and there's the University of Texas at San Antonio president here as well, can come in a number of ways. They can come whenever there is an extraordinary scholar or other member of the community who has passed. Or they can come when there's someone that has and personifies and embodies the heartbeat of the university. And there are those times when they're also your friend, and sometimes they're a colleague. And with Berrien's passing, he's all of those to me. He came here in 2010. I've been here for a long time. And immediately, we became close, which is nothing special for Berrien. That's what he does with people. That's why so many of you are here right now. We were both deans together and served in that capacity for a long time, and then I changed roles. And when I was asked to speak at this, I was a little struck by it. This is one of those break times that exists for universities. And when we heard that Berrien had passed, when Chuck called me on December 17th, it didn't feel real. Berrien doesn't leave. Berrien's always there. And Dean Clear, Dean of the College of Engineering, and I were having a meeting that morning. And I spoke to it in almost a clinical way because it didn't feel real. And I could tell from his expression, from Dean Clear's expression, that he wasn't taking it in a clinical way. And I reflected on it that evening, and in the rush of Christmas and the celebration of all of that, I had done what I usually do, which is just to compartmentalize it and maybe deal with it a bit later. Then I found out it was a miscommunication just yesterday morning I'd be speaking, which was on me. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about Berrien since then. Right? It forced upon me the obligation to think and reflect. And at first you wonder, can you find the words that are up to the moment? But then it turns to reflecting on yourself. And I think that only happens with the truly great people in your life, where you begin to think about it. And last night we were at an event with my wife and I, a family event, and I couldn't get it out of I couldn't stop thinking about Berrien's life and Berrien's impact. And all of the lessons that are embodied by him, that we think about, we know about, but we rarely act on. It also forces you to look at their CV in a way that you don't ordinarily do because of the familiarity. And you'll hear from colleagues and others that have greater expertise and knowledge than I do about climate science, but we all knew and know he is extraordinary in the impact of his work. But when you see it written down, and you see it in those talking points you're supposed to cover, you realize that while he made us believe he was just Berrien, he's actually a world-renowned scientist. And someone not just great in their space, but like all of those who are truly great in their field, saw well beyond it, understood relationship between disciplines and relationships with people. And to me, that's one of the words that really struck me, is this idea of relationships and Berrien. Berrien understood people, and he understood how art and science and math come together into systems. And that's really the genius of his work, right? Here is a mathematician that understood and became one of the preeminent leaders in climate science, in earth sciences, and did it in a way that embodies character that is enduring. 40 years at New Hampshire. How could he before us? And then his 15 years here, and obviously the 2 years he spent in the think tank. When you look at his awards, they speak volumes to where he stands in the field. You know, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, NOAA, a word we use a lot around this building. He received their highest award. And NASA received their highest award. And led the team that shared the Nobel Prize around climate change. Truly a giant in this space. We know him here at the university, and I see over here the Geocarb exhibit. Largest single award in the history of the University of Oklahoma. The principal investigator, Dr. Berrien Moore. And I love that it is in both areas, right? It's going outside of the atmosphere into space to study the effects of greenhouse gases and their delta, their change on a regular basis. The instrument is finished, the work is not. We will get it to space, and it will look over and help us follow those gases and make our Earth a better place. He had this ability to unite disciplines and unite people. And he felt comfortable in a room and made everyone comfortable in that room, regardless of their rank. And he made you work together, and watching him think was incredible. He united scholars and policy makers and global leaders in the private sector and the public sector. and he's a passionate educator, understanding that for all that he could do, the real legacy will be those students that go on to lead in these disciplines as well. That's where the real legacy is. It's this commitment to the next generation I think is stunning. I had a number of people reach out to me that ordinarily don't, to give me advice on the comments that I should provide about Berrien. What's better than unsolicited advice? And I think it's fascinating because the ages ranged from early 40s to late 80s. And they all felt compelled, and these individuals don't usually do this, to reach out and tell me what they think should be said by me here. Because there's only room for three groups of speakers here today because it had to be more limited. And it just happened with another colleague right before this began. Here's what you should say about Berrien. And I think it's because all of us feel so close to him. And all of us understand that he was the best of us. And he embodied those things that we talk about and we hope to be, but we always fall short of. So how do you find those words? I was given some really good talking points and a speech to read, and that felt clinical and honestly a little insincere. You all may have appreciated the brevity, but it didn't really embody him. So last night, after I was less than wonderful at the family event, and I came home and I sat in the study and I began thinking more about Berrien, and I was struggling to find those themes and ways to speak about what he has done and the impact he has had at every level. And I wrote some really average things. And then I thought to myself, why don't I go to his words? I mean, he emails all of us all the time. And so I started pulling up his emails. And I had it narrowed down to about 10. And they're all lengthy. And I'm not going to read all 10 of them. So I was editing on the way over. And let me just pick from one that I think really speaks in a great way to him. So he passed, of course, on December 17th. And while I have more recent emails than this is from November 15th of 24. And it's too long to read in this setting. But this is what he wrote, and it was to me and Joe Castiglione. You're not going to believe this, and you might not have heard, but we had a little rough football season this year. And so Berrien reached out to the two of us on this particular email, and this is, 3:07 a.m. our time. Dear Joes, and he bullet pointed it to make sure that we could digest it appropriately, probably understanding his audience. Dear Joes, I'm on a long track to India to spread the gospel of Boomer Sooner and care of the planet. However, I wish the planet were a bit smaller. Multiple exclamation marks, because one wouldn't do. Overnight, which I'm on, D.C. to Frankfurt, arriving around 11 a.m. Frankfurt time Friday, Frankfurt to New Delhi, arriving 1:20 a.m. Saturday, change airports, international to domestic, for a 4:45 a.m. flight to Pune, India, arriving 7 a.m. Saturday. Whew, double exclamation marks. Then it goes on to talk about other stuff that I had to edit out. And then he then says, now to where I am and the real purpose of this email. Long ago, I developed a strategy for dealing with long flights. Take an even longer novel. I chose Moby Dick, which is a whale of a story. Then he makes a comment I can't share. It reminded him of a certain colleague of ours, and I won't call that out. Then he says, but this takes me away from what is important. Moby Dick is a very deep and meaningful story, which is beautifully written, and I just read something important I think. And then it's in quotes. And this is the passage from Moby Dick. He quotes, "And there is a Catskill eagle in some souls that can alike dive down into the blackest gorges and soar out of them again and become invisible in the sunny spaces. And even if he forever flies within the gorge, that gorge is in the mountains, so that even in his lowest swoop, the mountain eagle is still higher than other birds upon the plain, even though they soar." And then he explains as though we couldn't understand the passage. And he says the OU athletic program and the University of Oklahoma are Catskill eagles, but they will never forever fly within the gorge. But when they do, which is inevitable, they will be still higher than the birds upon the plain, even though they soar. Dear friends, please realize how very important it is to be a Catskill eagle. And then he concluded, "My deep appreciation for all that you do and to which you are committed, very best, Berrien." Right? He's just trying to get to India. Right? This wasn't an assignment. Right? This wasn't a memorial service for Joe and me, although the way the games went, maybe it is. And yet, he took the work he had in front of him and he showed the care for us and to provide the education to us. That even after a difficult loss, even when you're faced with challenges, as long as you dare to soar at those heights, even those low moments are still higher than those that live in the plains. And I just think it was beautiful. And later, before December 17th in his passing, there are more emails where he references it again and talks about the university and how the university itself is that Catskill eagle. And there are so many other emails that I pulled. And it was talking about the next great idea that he's working on, that you all are working on and are working on. The next great idea for the university, Bob Palmer and he working on it together. And there are other emails talking about an incredible work of art that he believes he can get for right in front of this National Weather Center. And there are other ones that are just silly and fun, but always connected and caring. You know, there's there's sort of a sterility to any effort to embody an individual who has passed, especially when they've accomplished extraordinary things, because there's this temptation to conflate and to say that represents the person. And for the things that you see over here and behind me in this National Weather Center, and all that he's done as dean, and all that he did at New Hampshire, and all that he's done for our planet, and the work he was doing on that trip in India, which was with Vinky, an incredibly important work, trying to save our planet and make our planet available for future generations. There's this temptation to try and define that person by the extraordinary works in which they engaged. But I think with Berrien, that wouldn't be fair, and it's why I couldn't read the talking points about Berrien, because it didn't truly speak to him. I feel jealous and a little betrayed that he had 40 years in his professional life before I had the opportunity to be a part of his life. And you're going to hear from one of those that was with him from the very beginning of his life. But I can tell you, in my role as a university president, you can change the world with one or two of him. And I can tell you, in my role as a colleague, he makes you care and work, and he challenges you and wants you to be better and is there to help you. And as a friend, you know, my oldest son and I would go play golf. We'd go out to Jimmy Austin OU golf course, and he'd be there, and he'd watch my oldest, who's now a junior at OU, but when he started here, he was a very young person. and Berrien was there to help him with the swing, told him that his dad was a professional golfer and that he wasn't, but he went ahead and gave instruction and always asked over the last decade and a half how Joseph is doing. He takes the time, as we hear repeatedly, is it for as extraordinary as he is, he always takes the time to get to know you and to build a relationship, and everyone talks about the long conversations they've had with him. To the entire family, to his bride, to his daughter, thank you for sharing Berrien with us. He'll always be here with us, and will always be better because of him. Thank you.
My funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with my heart. Your looks so laughable, unphotographable, yet you're my favorite work of art. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak when you open it to speak? Are you smart? Oh, don't change a hair for me, not if you care for me. Stay, little Valentine, each day is Valentine's Day.
Wow, it's really not easy to find the right words now after this beautiful song, after President Harris's beautiful speech. But I will try to pay tribute to Berrien by sharing a few words about his impact on the college and its people. My name is Petra Klein. I've served as the Associate Dean of the college since 2017 and worked very closely with Berrien during a time of many, not always easy transitions. In many ways, we came from very different worlds, but our paths crossed. We found common language, and he made me feel at home in the world of academia. I'm a first-generation college graduate. I grew up in a very small village in southwest Germany. I was the introverted, nerdy kid, fascinated by science, and I somehow stumbled into academia and landed at OU 24 years ago. How I came here is a whole nother story that we will not tell today. But my journey started in 1984 when I had a high school paper assignment, and it introduced me to the increase in greenhouse gas concentrations and the impact on the Earth's climate. At that time, I was likely unknowingly reviewing papers that Berrien had contributed to. So I had no idea about the famous climate scientist, but it interested me to start my journey in science. My first introduction to Norman was the movie Twister in 1996, while I was working on my PhD in Germany. I had no idea I would ever move to Norman, or yet that I would be listed with Berrien as advisors in the trailer Twisters last year. So really change of events there. Berrien, in his typical self, was very enthusiastic about the movie. He focused on the opportunities it provided for growing the interest in our meteorology programs. I, on the other hand, was very worried how it might promote unsafe storm chasing. Our different life stories influenced our first reactions, but we were a good team, always focused on the common end goals of doing what is best for OU and for the National Weather Center family. Berrien cared deeply about the people, just as much as he cared about the science. You will hear that in a lot of speeches today, I think. Multiple faculty members have shared with me how much they valued B's support after they joined OU. He valued our staff. He gave them opportunities to grow and to shine. And if a student was in need, Berrien found ways to support them. Berrien's optimism was endless, and he always focused on the new opportunities. We came out of the pandemic, a time of endless Zoom meetings, joined by different paths, with a plan to hire 10 new faculty members, and we were very successful because we had prepared that plan during a time when nobody really thought about expansions. He was passionate about growing the academic and research programs in meteorology, geography, and environmental sustainability, and he wholeheartedly embraced the expansion of the college by adding the fast-growing School of Aviation. Off to new heights we went, and we embraced being the college where the land meets the sky, but the sky was never the limit for Berrien. He loved the arts, and the 3 National Weather Center Biennale from 2013 to 2017 were absolute highlights for him. His office walls are a reflection of his love for the arts and his many scientific accomplishments. But there was also a cherished collection of orchids. You can see some of them around the room here. And Berrien could be found in the back, in the kitchen area of the Dean's Suite, tending to the orchids, just like my mom would do back home. So there was a connection there. It made me feel at home. He would come full of joy like a child on Christmas Day after a Sooner sports victory with a big smile, or after a fishing trip. And it's these little things that will be dearly missed just as much as his bright scientific mind. And I will end today with a quote from Hermann Hesse, an author that I dearly cherished when I was this nerdy teenage kid in this German village. And all the voices, all the goals, all the yearnings, all the sorrows, all the pleasures, all the good and evil, all of them together was the world. All of them together was the stream of events, the music of life. Berrien's life was full of beautiful music, and we owe it to him for its sound to go on. Thank you, and my condolences, dear Lucia and dear Leela, and everybody in the family.
Hi, Lucia. So I'm Bob Palmer. I'm in the School of Meteorology, and I'm one of the many radar folks here in Norman. Been here about 20 years. I was on the search committee that brought Berrien here, and I noticed Kevin Kelly's here also. He was the one that recommended to the search committee that we go after Berrien. But then what he said to us was, well, there is no way he's going to come to Norman. And he meant it, but he did come, surprisingly, and he stayed a long time, and he had an impact on probably everybody in this room. When I met him, there's a few things that were very interesting to me, but very attractive. He had this charisma and sophistication, which were attractive, and I might even say he had this swagger about him that when he went into a room, he demanded respect, and not in any arrogant way at all, but you knew you were just going to respect this person. So when I got to know him, I really felt like I wanted to be on his team. He's the kind of person that has that charisma that you just want to fall behind this person and do, emulate them the best you can. So I wanted to be on his team. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to point out here, first I wanted to say, and it was mentioned already, I think Joe mentioned it, that how comfortable he made everybody feel that he was with. Even with this sophistication and swagger, he made you feel very comfortable. And I think something important for people he worked with was that he made you feel confident in yourself. And so whether he worked with faculty, students, or staff, he made all of us, occasionally, probably people in this room occasionally have imposter syndrome. They're in a position and they think, well, can I really do it or not? I tell you, he gave you that confidence to try things, take risks that you wouldn't normally do. So I know many of us in this room have accomplished things that we wouldn't have done if he weren't sort of pushing us along. So taking those chances is, very important for all of us in academia. So I think of him as a great coach. I was going to make a comment about OU football too, but I decided not to. But he was a great coach. I think he made all of us much, much better. So not only did Berrien make others feel so comfortable, one thing I really gained a lot of respect with him was I really admired how comfortable he was in any setting. The art festival was mentioned. Of course, I know almost nothing about art, but I respected, his love for it. So he was in different settings, from arguing science with some of the smartest faculty that we have in the world. He could hang with all of them. From walking the halls of Congress, talking to Kevin Kelly, and what he did with policy, and our congressional delegation was amazing. To sitting down and talking to some high school kid with his parents, and they're kind of scared to come to OU and Norman, the big city. And he could make everybody feel comfortable in that way. And I was always very impressed by that. So one personal example I had was almost monthly, he and I would go down by ourselves to Ardmore and visit one of our donors to the college. And the donor, there's at this country club down in Ardmore. And he would always gather his friends, the donor would, and he would invite us for these monthly martini lunches, which you can imagine how they went. But it almost seemed like the goal of the donor was to invite these academics down from Norman and sort of poke fun at them. And so we would go down there religiously every month and have these martini lunches. And then what I was impressed by was how Berrien, such a sophisticated person, could just navigate all these tricky topics that came up. So these folks down in Norman were good Oklahoma country boys. They actually had a great story because almost all of them grew up really poor, but they were self-made millionaires and were being very generous to the university. But he would navigate these tricky topics, from the role of higher education in Oklahoma to climate change to even politics. And the way that he could navigate those things with these folks who were good friends of ours, but they thought they were different than us because we were academics and they sort of grew up from nothing, which my story's not a whole lot different. But so I gained a lot of respect for Berrien on those trips down to Norman. I really do I'm going to miss having them. So in about a week, we're going to be going down to New Orleans for the AMS conference, and Berrien is going to be sorely missed because he was always center stage at almost everything that we did at AMS. And I was just really proud to be part of the OU family and be on his team. And so I'm not quite sure how we're going to get through it. It's about a week from now, and but we'll have to press through. But I really do wish I had more time to be on his team. So thank you.
My name's Ed Garland, and I am an intimate friend of Berrien from as long as I can remember. What a beautiful presentation you have made. And I want to say to Joe and to Peter and to Robert, You got it right. Each one of you. Berrien was extraordinary. And he was that way from the very first days. So we grew up in Atlanta. We grew up in Atlanta where we lived was 5 miles out the city limits. You could shoot shotguns and firecrackers and hunt. It's now, where we grew up, the most expensive real estate in the southeastern United States, with high rises and home prices through the roof. But it was a place where you went up to the little place called Buckhead on Peachtree Road, where I lived. That was where the Buckhead movie was and the hobby shop was. And then B lived around the corner, 1 block down, and then I could cut through the backyard and come up to the backyard of his house. And I don't know if it was grammar school or kindergarten when we first were aware that we were friends. And he was that precious person from the very first day that we met. His accomplishments are so great that you can't list them. You can't even read about them. There's so much of it. And I was fortunate to have an intense personal friendship with him all the way up through his life, but we were intensely personal and involved in the very earliest days. We went to R.L. Hope Grammar School. If you look at those pictures, you'll see the beautiful Berrien in 2 pictures, the 5th grade picture and the 6th grade picture, and they're almost identical pictures. He is dead center on the first row, and his hands are placed across each other. And if you didn't see that it was a different picture, you wouldn't know that it wasn't. With this, what really became a very, very handsome man, especially in his younger days. He was a beautiful boy. Now, he's had a lot of praise, and he should, but he was a bit devilish. He was adventurous. He was a risk taker. He was a free person, and he loved to explore. Where I lived, my dad was a trial lawyer, and he defended a rock mason for murder, and when he got him acquitted, he had him build a rock wall around the house. And right across the street, right across the front of the house, there was a low rock wall. And the trolleys, the bus system went up and down Peachtree, the 8 miles or so to downtown Atlanta. Almost all the world revolved around Peachtree Road. And B and I would get behind that wall, and when the bus came by, we would get up with the rocks and throw it at the side of the bus and then duck back down. Well, there were buses on this side, they were easy to hit, but across the street, they were harder to hit. And so you had to hit them on the side, otherwise you would, which we did, break a window on the bus, which led to a big investigation and people showing up in my house, and thank God Dad was a lawyer. So that was our first, one of our first escapades, but we had many events that we did together. I would go around to his backyard, and it was sloped and down to a small creek, and of course, a lot of our life was chasing the tadpoles and the crawfish, and then playing in his backyard because he was the first guy that had a backboard. And we played endless, horse, 21. We played in front yards, playing touch football, yards that so small now you wouldn't think you could do anything in them, and roll the bat. And it was a wonderful life. And then that same group of people in R.L. Hope High School, grammar school, went over along with a few other grammar schools that we played sports. We were in high school to North Fulton High School. And we got to North Fulton High School. Well, our interests weren't academic. They were girls and cars, or cars and girls, and competitive sports, and competition about the girls. But Berrien somehow became known as the person who could take an automobile engine apart, repair it, put it back together, and he had never had any training at all. So one of the great events was David Johnson, his close friend, one of our buddies, and one of our crowd who's still with us, got a 1949 Ford convertible. It had problems with the engine. And the next thing we knew, Berrien was taking the motor out in David's garage, took all the parts and put them all the way around the garage, found how to fix it, put it all back together, and it worked. Of course, our infatuation with cars was immense, and so we went to ride in the convertible, and one day we went up to North Georgia where there are beautiful lakes, Lake Burton, and the mountain roads, and put the top down, and Berrien and I were in the back, and there were 3 or 4 other guys, and David was driving. And on a 49 Ford, you had, and I guess it was a button, and you would pull that out, and that would control the accelerator. So you could set the speed. And what would you do? You have the top down, you're up going over these mountain roads, and we were up there to jump off bridges into the lake, which would be 40 and 50 feet high, daredevil stuff. Well, we want a daredevil mission. Our friend David pulls the throttle out, gets up on the seat, sits on the top of the seat. We're sitting on the top of the back seat with the top down, going down these mountain roads. And the next thing I know, David has got his feet on the steering wheel. We made it to the bottom, jumped off the bridge. But there was the other great fascination with cars was to get a girl in one. And a mile from our high school, there was Piedmont Drive-In Theater. Now that was an important place. And Berrien wound up having a 40 Ford sedan that he had somehow restored and gotten working. Had a big trunk. And the deal was that you'd get a bunch of people, cram them in the trunk, and put them on the floor and put blankets over them and get in with just 2 tickets. But then finally, when you got a girl to go alone in a car and go to the drive-in theater, your objective in life at that point was have a close enough relationship with that girl that you could fog up the windows. So it was a beautiful life. Back when we were in grammar school, what was most important, among the most important, was to get up to the Buckhead movie on Saturday morning and get in line before it opened at 10 o'clock for the double header of Hopalong Cassidy or Roy Rogers, or a whole variety of wonderful movies, and you could get in for 35 cents. You could get a thing of popcorn and a sweet treat and spend all day there. And that's where we began to meet people outside of RL Hope. And then the big event is the mothers. And Bee's mother, Mary, was a noted, as far as I was concerned, she was a great actress, because she appeared on television with the first shopping network, and she was beautiful and articulate. And the big department store said, we want to sell stuff on TV, and created her shopping show. She also was the voice of time, meaning you dialed a number, and when you called up, they told you the time. Now, B went international. You know his history. And I stayed home. But we stayed in intimate touch in different times. And he always treated me, if I was somebody special, like he made everybody feel. And I had the good fortune of, in the last 3 years, coming out here twice during the Sugar Bowl, which was thrilling, to meeting most of you here, with my wife Judy of 58 years. And so I go way back and saw Berrien's rise and movement around the world. As you pointed out, he had done major things before he arrived here. He had created incredible things. And he would share with me, you know, when you get the age on you, get some scars and you get some failures and you get some successes and awards. And we went through a lot of that together. So being here speaking, thinking about it, I so appreciated each of you, what it did to you to think about who Berrien really was. Now, early on, he was a football player. He wasn't the lead quarterback, he was the backup quarterback. We had a great quarterback. The man became a professional athlete, but he was the backup quarterback. And I've been calling friends and asking them about their memories of Berrien. And one of the lead football players, named Bill Pilo, Bill had moved out of town not long after he went off to college. And he said, well, you know, I didn't see Berrien, but one time at the reunion at my house, the 50th or something reunion, so I really didn't know him well, but I'd have this memory of him. First, he was such a kind and sweet person. And secondly, when he came in and called the plays, he would take his hands and put them palm down and hold them out. Because in the woodworking class, he had the ends of two fingers kind of chipped off. And he did that so he'd remember whether the play was right or left before he called it out. And I heard that for the first time Thursday when the 59ers, the class of 59, meet for lunch, the small group of us. I also called some of his former girlfriends. Now, in that day, he was pretty popular and appealing to the women, but there was only a limited supply, so we all dated them at one time or another. And so I called one girl who said that she went to college at North Carolina after going to another school because she was dating Berrien and wanted to be on campus where she could date him some more. And after 2 years and she was graduating, she was hopeful that he would be interested in matrimony and a family. And it became clear to me that he was more interested in the world and in academics and in study than he was in marriage and children. And I broke it off and left. Another thing, I've lost the thread about the football, but when he went to the University of North Carolina, two other guys, Craig Nelson and Bob Newman, and they lived together, went there. I went where a man's supposed to go, straight up Peachtree Road, which was Highway 29, to the University of Georgia for the fourth generation. But I'd stayed a little bit in touch, and those guys tell me that immediately Berrien invented a football game. And the football game was to have teams on each side of this house and throw the ball over where you couldn't see it coming, and they played it relentlessly. So maybe that's why I get one of those emails after Oklahoma did what it did to trash and humiliate Alabama, which all us Georgia guys had been waiting for, and every team in the Southeastern Conference had been finally waiting to have Alabama get what it deserved. And I get this email, and it says, "You are required to make a substantial donation to the Oklahoma Athletic Department, because without us, you wouldn't get in the playoffs." He became a Tar Heel, and then on from there to Virginia. We had, and B had, and y'all have shared in it, but he and I had what almost was a competitive sport, and that was to engage in hilarious laughter, silly, foolish laughter that could come out of any conversation, where the laughter would be such that we would be laughing at each other till we finally got other people to laugh because they were laughing at us, laughing at each other. And it was a magical thing that continued in my life with him, and he was unique in that regard. I came out here 2 years ago, and Chuck took us down to the Cotton Bowl where we ate the corn dogs, and we were in there in the last minute when Oklahoma drove down the field in the last second and won, and the announcer said, "Oh, mama." And oh mama moments became part of my conversation with Berrien. He loved this school, and he loved y'all. So in thinking about this, and this was hard to think about, so when you're his contemporary and when he is almost part of you, it brings a real sense of mortality to reflect on this beautiful man. So I decided that, and y'all have to put up with a long-winded Southern trial lawyer, but I thought I would want to talk to you about what Berrien would say to you. And I wanted to talk about what I would say to Berrien. First, Berrien would want me to express in tender words his love for Lucius. You gave Berrien, in the last chapter of his life, a love that was unconditional. And from that unconditional love, he thrived. And y'all got the benefit of that. He thrived. He was your precious boy. He was a precious man. He was a precious friend. As one of you pointed out, he understood science, but he's understood in a talent. He was good at friendship. He would also want me to tell Leela how much he loved her and his memories of the years of time with her. He would want me to thank Leanne Sully, who made his life possible day to day, hour to hour, and it seemed to me like minute to minute. He'd want me to thank Chuck, because Chuck was a dear friend to him. But the truth is, he'd want me to thank every one of you that he loves so much. And he would want me to thank his first wife, Gail, now deceased, in their 50 years together. Berrien got married, went on his honeymoon, and his father died on his honeymoon when Berrien was 25. And he became the father of his sisters and the guiding hand for his mother when he went about the great dreams that he had. He would want me to thank the Thurmans and the Thurman family, and many of whom were here, and the brothers and the sisters of his mother, and their children and nieces and nephews that he gathered with over and over again at the Masters and at Sea Island and other places throughout his life. He would want me to thank the Talbert family, whose mother, Sister Joe, married Bud Talbert. And after Berrien's death, Bud Talbert became the father. Now, all of his life, Berrien went with Bud Talbert, and then his family did, on vacations in the wilderness, outback vacations. But he grew up, even as a child, going to the Talbert's cabins in Canada. And he learned his love of fishing and hiking and the outdoors and the love of the earth that he possessed. So he would want each one of those people thanked for how much they contributed to his life. And I was aware of the struggle he had about coming to Oklahoma. As you pointed out, he was a sophisticated, international intellect, a connoisseur in many ways of the arts and of sculpture and of architecture and of music, just wonderful music that he would have loved so much. And so the mention of Oklahoma didn't automatically register with him. But he came out here, and Chuck and all of y'all courted him and got him. And I don't know how many times when he was talking to me, shall I go, what shall I do? He said, but they have embraced me so. And it meant so much to him how this community embraced him. And I think, as Petra said, he was a man for the challenging job that he was offered. But he was a man who could meet those challenges and brought his own challenges to you and his own leadership. What he would want me to do is to shout out his thanks, to shout out Boomer Sooner. He would want me to show his unrestricted love of the fabulous University of Oklahoma, the Weather Center, and all of its hundreds of pieces. He would want to thank all of his colleagues, all of his students, all of his friends, both here and around the world. He would be like an actor getting an Academy Award if he were here, who rushes through thanking, because that's the way Berrien was. Now, his name, when I first knew him, and I don't know how many of you know this, because he's tried to bury this, but he is known as Bebo. Not B, but yes, he got it down to B from Bebo, but when we sit around the folks from high school, they're talking about Bebo in grammar school. Then it became B and Berrien and Dr. Moore, who, as I see and hear and what I've seen, became the doctor for the health of the planet and all our health. So, Berrien, we would all want to thank you for your many talents, for your friendship. He would often say, do you remember? Do you remember? Do you remember? Let me tell you this. Do you remember? And to everyone, as was pointed out here, no matter what someone's station, he had a way of making them feel that he was talking them. And he carried it out with a touch on your hand or a tap on your shoulder or an embracing hug or a kiss on the cheek or the direct statement, I love you. All of us would want to thank you because you were a precious, precious friend, a precious, inspiring person. And from people all around the earth, B, they would want to thank you for leading a life of purpose and a life of significance. Dr. Moore, they would thank you for your efforts to make the world a better place. Thank you, my dear friend.
Si mi chiamano me fuori d'ora in porto nare.
Many thanks to all of you for being here. As we come to the close of this memorial service, let us carry Berrien with us, not only in our memories, but in how we live our lives. He showed us kindness, thoughtfulness, and a caring heart. As we embrace these qualities, his spirit will live on in each of us. May we leave here with hearts full of gratitude for the time we had with Berrien, and with the comfort of knowing his love and light will remain with us always. We offer a special thank you to Leanne Salee and her folks in the Dean's office. They have arranged a special reception for us in the cafe. We will dismiss directly to the cafe and hope you all can join us. The hour is yours. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you. I wish it were under different circumstances. Hey, nice job. Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you. I'm so sorry for your loss. Let me know if you need anything with your healing. Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very sorry for your loss. It was my pleasure.
You guys gonna keep playing?
We will, yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Nessun Dorma. Nessun Dorma from Turandot. Yes, Pavarotti used to sing it. Which would you like to do? How about yesterday? Let's go ahead, Bob. on? Do you want to take a break and I'll play box? Okay, sure. You want to do another one? Sure. What do you want to do next? Sure. Sure. Da-da-dee-da-da-da. 1, 2,